also a McLean Scholar through Baylor's Ball Center for Entrepreneurship and Free Enterprise, and also a Crane Scholar in the University's Institute for Faith and Learning. He was selected as an ISI Dick and Karna Bodman Scholar in Science and Technology this year. Oliver is studying medical humanities and political philosophy, and his favorite authors include Aristotle, Dostoevsky, and Nietzsche. I'm also told that he loves to read Aquinas' Summa Theologicals for fun. He's also fluent in Vietnamese. Oliver is interested in a career in medicine or biotechnology. Oliver, will you please come forward and say a few words on behalf of the others who also were used?
Thank you, and good evening. Even by the standards of a native Texan, ISI has shown me exceptional Southern hospitality. Mrs. Tara Gallardi even worked some magic in persuading my mother and father to fly out and see me receive this award, so I've since ended my original draft and kept this G rated. Now, my adventure with ISI began 2 years ago, during my sophomore year of college. That afternoon, I was sitting at my desk and browsing through Facebook, looking at pictures of a friend named William Stover. Now, William was dressed in his usual old-fashioned attire, a three-piece suit, a crisp bow tie, and a felt top hat. What was unusual, however, was the fact that all of the young people in these pictures looked just as old-fashioned as William did. Heavy strings of pearls hung glistening at the necks of each young lady, and for the young men, pinstriped pants, seersucker suits, and paisley-patterned neck pieces were the norm. Now, I could think of only two ways to interpret such an odd scene. Either William had just been recruited to model for the Brooks Brothers, or he had just joined a pseudo-religious traditional cult still stuck in the post-war era of the 1950s. Well, after further research, both guesses proved to be somewhat true. The well-dressed youths were just conservative college students at an honors conference in Seabed, Washington, and the 1950s cult turned out to be none other than, you guessed it, the Intercollegiate Studies Institute. Now, some questions came to mind. What is, and researched the names of a few of these prepped-looking students. One, a Harvard student named Aurora, had recently been named a Rhodes Scholar. Another, Chase from the College of the Holy Cross, wrote for ISI's online publication, the Intercollegiate Review. And a third student, John Paul from Princeton, wrote for the Princeton Tory, the conservative journal sponsored by ISI's Collegiate Network. As I learned more about these students that afternoon, I was honestly baffled. I thought colleges were supposed to be liberal strongholds, especially the Ivies. Wasn't conservatism supposed to be exceptionally unappealing to anyone under the age of 25? And hadn't promises of change and progress captured the hearts of a new generation? Conservatism sure seemed to me to be on its way out the door. And yet, just this past August, when I was invited to attend my own honors conference, I have to say I was proven wrong. As I arrived at the Jefferson Hotel in Virginia, as I shook the hands of my fellow students and met our faculty mentors, as we sat with one another late into the evenings, I began to understand how high-achieving students, like Aurora and Chase, had fallen in love not only with ISI, but with the conservative frame of mind. In conversations with professors, in our group discussions and lectures, and most importantly, in the authenticity of the friendships that I made during that short time, from students from all kinds of universities, Berkeley to Duke, Hillsdale to Christendom, and all of these experiences, I knew I had experienced something fundamentally good and beautiful, and I might add something worthy of being conserved. Now, that newfound energy followed me back to Baylor this semester. And just last month, I and a group of friends hosted a lecture in our apartment where 50 students came together to discuss the differences between Donald Trump and Ronald Reagan. And the differences are many, not just the slogan. Just yesterday afternoon, in fact, I led a book club on Richard Weaver's Ideas Have Consequences. ISI supplied the books. And looking to the future, we're hosting another lecture in 2 weeks with Dr. Elizabeth Corey, whose father I had the privilege of meeting. a cherished Baylor professor whose ISI roots run deep. Now, looking back at my younger self, I'd like to conclude with what I think to be the fundamental lesson that ISI has taught me. If conservative principles are now said to be too traditional by my peers, too rigid and Puritan, too outdated and old-fashioned, I think it is only because they have never been and never will be in fashion. They need to be rediscovered and returned to in every generation. For truth is not meant for a certain time, it is simply timeless. For the gift of this education, I'm grateful to the people of this organization. Here's to the men and women who have advanced the mission of ISI for all they have done and all they